Breaking news, a major so-called ransomware attack is underway worldwide with more than 75,000 attacks reported. In the UK, it's targeted state-run hospitals. Well, this map shows where the attacks are occurring, with 99 countries now reportedly affected by the virus. The malware displays a screen demanding $300 in the cyber currency Bitcoin from the owners of the affected computers. Well, so how does ransomware work? Well, it locks the device, a computer, smartphone or tablet, and then demands money to unlock it. It encrypts the hard drive so you can't retrieve any data stored there. And even if you pay the ransom, that doesn't guarantee you'll get all your data back. Well, companies from the USA, Spain and Portugal were also hacked during this attack.
Like many other companies, FedEx is experiencing interference with some of our Windows-based systems caused by malware. We're implementing remediation steps as quickly as possible.
We were the target of an attack, like what is happening in all of Europe, a large-scale attack, but none of our services were affected.
Telefonica detected a cybersecurity incident affecting the PCs of some employees within the company's internal corporate network. Telefonica immediately activated the security protocols for this type of incident in order to resolve the problem as soon as possible.
This is absolutely unprecedented, and it does seem to have a lot of people spooked. The National Security Services, I mean, they sent a very technical report advising people the usual precautions, but also not to give in or pay any of the ransoms. There have been tweets by the thousands all day from people saying that they were employees in these particular companies, all major companies including banks, who've later categorically denied it, but the employees sent out a lot of unconfirmed reports saying that the attack was actually quite massive.
Well, our correspondent Daniel Hawkins brings us more from London.
Well, what started as a fairly local, then a national incident affecting just NHS computer systems rapidly turned into a massive global incident. Hospitals and GP surgeries across the UK, here in North, the South East and London, have been affected with hospitals and GP surgeries being unable to access patient records, their telephone systems or even some X-ray equipment. They've been forced to turn away many patients from their routine appointments and told people only to come in strictly for emergency situations, even ambulances being rediverted to other locations. Now, information so far indicates that this is a criminal incident. The National Crime Agency, the National Cybersecurity Centre, have so far ruled out an attack or interference by a foreign power, which we've heard allegations, of course, over the last weeks and months levelled at certain countries. They have ruled that out, and an NHS spokesman had this to say on exactly what's been going on and what's being done right now to tackle this incident.
FedEx at the moment supporting organisations to manage the incident, and we'll continue to communicate with our colleagues and share the information as more comes available. At the moment, we've got 16 organisations that have been affected by the issue, but there's no more I can say about what the actual damage is.
Now, information so far indicates that this is a malware called WannaCrypt. As you said earlier, it's a program which effectively hijacks the computer system used by the user, demanding a ransom, in this case $300 in bitcoins, to be sent to an online wallet before the data is released. The big concern, of course, among people and patients here has been the access to data. The NHS system contains much sensitive information, from medical records to national insurance numbers, payment details. There was a lot of concern about if that had been exposed. So far, NHS sources say there's no evidence to suggest that that has happened. Nevertheless, though, a very concerning incident both here in the UK and across the wider world. As the Prime Minister Theresa May said, this was not an attack specifically targeting the NHS, but it's part of a much wider, major global incident, something unprecedented really in the last few months and years of cyber attacks.
And our Washington correspondent Caleb Morpin has more on who could be responsible for the tools used in this wave of cyber attacks.
In response to the hacking attack, we have world-famous whistleblower Edward Snowden speaking up on Twitter. He writes, "Whoa, NSA decision to build attack tools targeting U.S. software now threaten the lives of hospital patients." It seems he's referring to the fact that this this technology that's being used, this malware software known as ransomware that encrypts data and then demands ransom in order to give the data back to the institution or individual being hacked. It's known as ransomware, and it was developed by the U.S. government. The NSA, the National Security Agency, apparently developed this software with their own research and with their own investigations and financed projects, and it was then leaked onto the internet by shadow brokers, which is a shady group that has been leaking NSA hacking tools onto the internet. So it seems this is also not the first time that ransomware has been used. Apparently, ransomware has affected, it's been used against hospitals and telecommunications companies in Europe, in Russia, in various parts of Asia, and even in Los Angeles. Just over a year ago, a hospital in Los Angeles was targeted with a ransomware attack and paid over $17,000 in ransom to get its encrypted information back. So apparently this is happening all over the world, and this is technology that was developed by the National Security Agency, by the U.S. government agency said to protect the security of Americans. The National Security Agency developed this software, and it's now being used by criminals around the world to demand ransom. Very, very interesting discovery and development.
And RT correspondent Miguel Francis Santiago spoke to me earlier about how the media's obsession with Russia may have distracted attention from real threats.
Really surprising for many people in this particular story is that for quite a long time we've heard Russian hackers, Russian hackers, Russian hackers. No details, just that they're hackers and they're Russian and they influence elections and whatnot. But today, 74 nations, 45,000 attacks and counting, fell victim to an unprecedented attack. I mean, we've never seen anything of this magnitude. Now, have we? Who's behind these attacks? We don't know. But see, this sort of attack shows that sometimes it's not good to run after this sort of Russian hacking boogeyman, preparing for the supposed Russian hacking threat. And what happens in the end? Well, countries tend to overlook other threats because their attention is shifted to something else. And what's truly ironic in particular about this whole situation is that out of the 74 countries, Russian Federation has been the most attacked nation, according to the Kaspersky Lab report that we've seen. Russia's Ministry of Internal Affairs came under attack. Windows-operated computers of the ministry, almost 1,000 of them have been affected and blocked immediately. And the virus is localized as of now, and work is being done to remove it. Also, a Russian major telecom provider, Megaphone, has been attacked as well, with their PR director, Mr. Lidov, telling us the attack as it happened when their call centers experienced a shutdown because all the computers were all of a sudden hit with a screen asking for $300 in ransom, or all the information would be deleted. Now, as far as right now, the situation in Megaphone is stable. They're back online and fully operational with no financial losses as of yet, just the call center temporary shutdown for the customers calling in. Also, Wimpelcom, another major telecom company in Russia, also has been hit, but successfully defended itself against the attacks, as we know so far. Now, according to the Kaspersky Lab report, a lot more companies have succumbed to this attack, and perhaps not all are going public yet, but we will keep you updated as we know more.
Well, for more now on the cyber attacks, we can speak live with Ian Camphouse, Lead Information Security Advisor with Brunel. Thank you very much indeed for joining us then, Ian. So how big of an attack are we talking about here? I mean, is this something really extraordinary or just the work of an anonymous hacking group looking for some ways to make some money?
It could be literally just one of the more successful criminal enterprises. I mean, crypto lockers and these kinds of crimes are happening all the time and have been for many years. And it could be that this particular tool for that kind of crime is just slightly more effective than many of the other ones. And it seems to spread very quickly. It appears, as I understand from reports as well, that it is using some of the vulnerabilities that were purposefully built into Windows systems, at the instructions of the NSA. And then, of course, information about those vulnerabilities were lost by the NSA and fell into public hands, including in the hands of criminals who now appear to be using them. So this could be literally nothing more than just a very successful criminal enterprise. It could also be something else. I would venture that many victims, either tonight or maybe even before, won't, publicly announce the fact that they have been victimized. So whatever number we hear on systems infected or organizations infected could be easily an order of magnitude below the actual number. We just don't know.
Well, let's look at some of those targets. I mean, we've seen hospitals in the UK, even up to Russia's Ministry of Internal Affairs. They've all been hit. I mean, is it strange that we have such a wide range of targets?
No, if the distribution of the systems happens in an automated fashion, then it doesn't necessarily have to follow a very specific pattern. It could just go all over the place. It could use address books it finds on various PCs to send itself to other places, as other worms and viruses have done in the past. So again, this is nothing new. It is interesting, actually, that the Russian ministry is a victim, because other parts of the Russian government have moved away from the Windows operating system precisely to prevent these kinds of problems, as they would, then endanger the national security of Russia. But apparently some parts of the Russian government still are running Windows and are now a victim of this attack.
Well, is it then possible to trace the people who are responsible? Is it possible to trace the perpetrators?
It might be possible once a proper analysis is done of the software. So, as for instance, groups like Kaspersky have done in the past with, for instance, the Stuxnet virus, but that could take quite a lot of time. It's also possible, if the people who built this and who deployed this, were careful, that it will never be able to be accurately determined. So right now we just know it will require a detailed analysis of the software, and that's just going to take days and maybe weeks and months.
Well, looking at what they've apparently demanded, it's ought to be in Bitcoin. Why is that?
Well, the idea being that a Bitcoin transaction is easier to sort of make anonymous than, say, a normal credit card transaction or something like that. So it is an attempt to hide some of the sort of financial paper trail that always results out of any financial transaction in sort of more classical currencies. Although Bitcoin itself, of course, is not entirely anonymous. So again, maybe if the criminals who are doing this are not careful enough in extracting the money at some point, they will be found that way. Because often, if criminals in the digital space get caught, it's not because of some crypto magic, but it's because they slipped up in a much more sort of mundane side of the criminal work, such as extracting the money at the end of a thing like this.
Oh, I have to leave it there. Arjen Kamp, Information Security Advisor, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.